In this session, we are going to examine ordinary least square method, which is an important method of estimation of the regression model. Here we are considering a simple linear regression model. In a simple linear regression model, there are only two variables. One variable is the dependent variable and the other variable is the independent or explanatory variable. Yi is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 xi plus ui is a simple linear regression model. When the simple linear regression model satisfies certain assumptions, it is known as classical linear regression model. So, when simple linear regression model satisfies certain assumptions, that model is known as a classical linear regression model, CLRM. Now let us examine what are the important assumptions of the classical linear regression model. Broadly, we can see that assumptions can be classified into two. First is the stochastic assumptions and second is the non-stochastic assumptions. All these stochastic assumptions are the assumptions which are related to the stochastic term ui. So, all assumptions which are related to the stochastic or error term ui they come under stochastic assumptions, and there are some other assumptions also. So, this is the first assumption. Model is a linear regression model. So, the regression model that we are considering is a linear regression model, and the model is linear in parameters. We are concerned with linearity in parameters. Here, in this model, yi is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 xi plus ui. But power of parameter beta 1 is 1 and power of the next parameter beta 2 is also 1. So, this model is linear in parameters. So, this is the first assumption, linearity in parameters. The regression model is linear in parameters. The model also assumes that x values are fixed in repeated sampling. The values taken by the independent variable x are considered fixed in repeated sampling. Also, it is assumed that x is non-stochastic. So, all values taken by the independent variable are fixed and they are not related to the stochastic term u. So, x values are non-stochastic also. This is the third assumption, zero mean value of the disturbance term ui. So, here we assume that given the value of xi, the mean or expected value of the random disturbance term ui is 0. So, it is assumed that the expected or mean value of the stochastic disturbance term ui is 0. So, the conditional mean value of ui is 0. That is, expected value of ui for a given value of xi is equal to 0. This is a very important assumption. This is a stochastic assumption because this assumption is related to the stochastic term u. So, given the value of xi, we assume that the mean or the expected value of ui is 0. Assumption is the assumption of homoscedasticity or equal variance of ui. Given the value of x, the variation of ui is same for all observations. It is assumed that for a given value of x, the variation of the stochastic term ui is same for all observations. This is the assumption of homoscedasticity. Homo means same, equal. Scedasticity refers to the spread. So, there is equal spread or equal variance. So variance is a constant. The variation of the stochastic term is a constant for all observations. That is, the conditional variances of ui are identical. Variance of u is the same. So with the help of symbols, we can write like this: variance of ui for a given value of xi is equal to expectation of ui minus expectation of ui for a given value of xi, the whole square. From the last definition, we know that, from the last assumption, we know that expected value of ui is equal to 0. We have already assumed that expected value of ui is 0. So that term becomes 0. So variance of u is equal to expected value of ui square for a given xi, and that is equal to sigma square. So sigma square is used to denote the variance of the stochastic term ui. So the stochastic term has constant variance. This can be written as sigma square u also. Variance of ui is equal to sigma square u. That denotes we are considering the variance of the stochastic term. So if this assumption of homoscedasticity is violated, that situation is known as heteroscedasticity. So the classical linear regression model assumes that there is homoscedasticity, that is, the variance of the stochastic term is a constant. If this constant variance assumption is violated, that situation is known as heteroscedasticity. The model also assumes that there is no autocorrelation between the disturbance terms. There is no autocorrelation between the stochastic disturbance terms. Given any two values of xi and xj where I is not equal to j, the correlation between any two ui and uj where I is not equal to j is 0. That is, the covariance ui uj for given values of xi xj is equal to 0. That means two values of the disturbance terms are not correlated. u1 and u2 are not correlated. There is no correlation between two disturbance terms, u1 and u2, or u2 and u3, or u3 and u4. There is no correlation. They are not correlated. Any two values of disturbance terms are not correlated. So this assumption is known as assumption of no autocorrelation, assumption of non-autocorrelation, or assumption of no serial correlation. So if this assumption of no autocorrelation or no serial correlation is violated, we say that there is autocorrelation in the model. If two disturbance terms are correlated, we say that there is autocorrelation in the model. So classical linear regression model assumes that there is no autocorrelation in the model. This is also a stochastic assumption because this assumption is related to the stochastic term u. The sixth assumption is zero covariance between ui and xi. Covariance between ui and xi is 0. There is no covariance between ui and xi. So again, this is a stochastic assumption because this is related to the stochastic term ui. This is the next assumption, that is, the number of observations must be greater than number of parameters. So number of observations, usually we use the letter n to represent the number of observations, and it must be greater than the number of parameters. Usually k is used to denote number of parameters. So here you have to read it as k. So number of parameters k Here it is written as P, but usually we use the term K to represent the number of parameters. The number of observations n must be greater than the number of parameters to be estimated. So in a classical linear regression model, we assume that the number of observations must be greater than the number of parameters in the model. The eighth assumption is that there must be variability in x values. Values of the independent variable must vary. There should be sufficient variability in x values. The x values in a given sample must not all be the same. There must be some variability. Another assumption is this: the regression model must be correctly specified. There should not be any specification bias or error in the model. When we specify the functional form of the regression model, that functional form must be correctly specified. There should not be any specification error or specification bias. Model must be correctly specified. That is another assumption of the classical linear regression model. This is the last assumption. There is no perfect multicollinearity in the model. That is, there should not be any perfect linear relationship among the explanatory variables. In the case of multiple regression models, there will be more than one explanatory variable, and the model assumes that there should not be any perfect linear relationship among the explanatory variables. If there is a perfect linear relationship among the explanatory variables, we say that there is perfect multicollinearity in the model. Multicollinearity refers to a situation where there is linear relationship between the explanatory variables. When there is perfect multicollinearity, there is a perfect linear relationship among the explanatory variables. So classical linear regression model assumes that there is no perfect linear relationship among the explanatory variables. Now let us examine the estimation of a two-variable regression model. We have already examined what are the important assumptions of a two-variable regression model. Now we are going to the estimation procedure, and as you know, our task is to estimate the population regression function on the basis of sample regression function, and ordinary least square method is one of the most commonly used method of estimation. Ordinary least square method is popularly known as OLS method, ordinary least square method. This is one of the most commonly used methods of estimation of a regression model, and all the assumptions of the classical linear regression model are the assumptions underlying the method of ordinary least square method. So we can apply the ordinary least square method only when the regression model satisfies all the assumptions of the classical linear regression model. So we can apply OLS only when the regression model satisfies all the assumptions that we have already discussed. If any of those assumptions are not satisfied, we cannot apply the method of ordinary least square method. OLS method was developed by a German mathematician called Frederick Gauss, and it has some peculiar statistical properties, and as a result of these peculiar statistical properties, ordinary least square method is the most popular and the powerful method of estimation. So from the sample regression function, we know that YA is equal to YA hat plus UI hat. That is, the actual observation of Y is equal to estimated value of Y plus the error term. So YA is equal to YA hat plus UI, where YI refers to the actual observation of Y and YA hat refers to the estimated value of Y, and UI hat is the sample residual term. So from the first equation, we can write like this: ui hat is equal to yi minus yi hat. We are simply rearranging the equation. So ui hat is equal to yi minus, we are substituting the value of yi hat. We know that yi hat is equal to beta 1 hat plus beta 2 hat xi. So ui hat is equal to yi minus yi hat, which is equal to yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi. So we can say that residuals are the difference between actual and estimated y values. So residual term ui hat is the difference between the actual y observation, which is indicated by yi, and the estimated y value, which is denoted by yi hat. In the case of Euler's estimation, given the n pairs of observations, we assume that we have n pairs of observations of x and y. We are trying to estimate the sample regression function in such a way that it is as close as possible to the actual y. So we are always trying to estimate y values in such a way that the estimated y values are as close as possible to the actual y values. So we will try to choose the sample regression function in such a way that the sum of the residuals is as small as possible. That we know that sum of residuals is equal to sigma ui hat. We are adding all the residual terms, u1 plus u2 plus u3 plus u4 etc. up to un. That is denoted by sigma ui hat. Sigma ui hat, we know that sigma ui hat, already we have found that sigma ui hat is equal to sigma yi minus yi hat, where yi is the actual observation of y and yi hat is the estimated value of y. So we are trying to estimate the sample regression function in such a way that the sum of residuals is as small as possible. We are trying to minimize the sum of the residuals in any estimation process. See here, you can see the graph. X values are taken along the x-axis and y values are taken along the y-axis. From the graph, it is clear that for a given value of x1, what is the actual y value and what is the estimated y value, and estimated y value always lies on that sample regression function, and we can see that actual y value is far away, it is higher than the estimated y value, and the difference between actual y observation and the estimated y value is denoted by u1 hat. So here u1 hat is positive because actual y value is greater than the estimated y value. So we have, it's slightly away from, away from the actual y observation is away from the sample regression function, and that deviation is denoted by ui hat. For the next observation of x, for x is equal to x2, the actual y value is lower than the estimated y value, and that deviation is denoted by u2 hat. So yi is less than yi hat for x is equal to x2. So we, in the first case, we have positive deviation. In the second case, we have negative residual. And for x3, we have u3, which is positive, and for x4, the deviation between actual and estimated y value is again negative. So we can see that for some observations, the actual y values are far away from the estimated sample regression function. We are always trying to estimate the y values in such a way that the estimated y values are as close as possible to the actual y values. So we are always trying to reduce the sum of the errors. However, you can see that when we add all these residuals together, the sum can be 0 or it can be a value which is very close to 0, because here we have some positive u values and we have some negative u values. So when we add all these together, see, in some situations the sum will be 0 or very close to 0, even though the actual y values are far away from the estimated y values. The actual y values are scattered away from the sample regression function. So as we have found, it is quite possible that the algebraic sum of the residuals is very small or even 0, although the residuals are widely scattered around the sample regression function. So this is a problem. So in order to avoid this problem, we adopt the least square criterion. We usually use the least square criterion. Here, rather than trying to minimize the sum of the residuals, we are trying to minimize the sum of the squared residuals. We square the residuals and add the residuals together, add the square of the residuals together. Then all negative u values becomes positive when we square those terms, and sum will not be 0. So in order to avoid a problem, we are using the least square criterion, or we are applying the principle of ordinary least squares. So least square criterion suggests that sum of the squared residuals should be the least or minimum. We square all residuals and we try to minimize the sum of the squared residuals. So here we are applying the principle of least squares. Least square principle suggests that sum of squared residuals should be the least, or it should be the minimum. So ui hat is the residual term. So we are squaring all the residual terms. We take u1 square, u2 square, u3 square up to un square. Then we add all these residuals together. So sigma ui hat square, that is the sum of squared residuals. So we know that ui is equal to yi minus yi hat. So sigma ui hat square is equal to sigma yi minus yi hat the whole square. We are finding out the deviation between actual y values and the estimated y values, and we are squaring that and adding all those together, adding all the squared residuals. So sigma ui hat square is the sum of the squared residuals, and here we have to minimize the sum of the squared residuals. And when we substitute the value of beta 1 hat here, we get sigma ui hat square is equal to sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi the whole square. So we have to minimize this. So according to the least square principle or least square criterion, we have to minimize the sum of squared residual sigma ui hat square. And of course, we know that sigma ui hat square is a function of beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat. So we have to choose beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat in such a way that for a given sample, sigma ui hat square is as small as possible. We are trying to minimize the sum of the squared residuals. We want to make sigma ui hat square, which is the sum of the squared residuals, as small as possible. So the method of least square provides us with some unique estimates of beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat in such a way that it gives the smallest possible value of sigma ui hat square. So we have to minimize the sum of squared residuals, that is sigma ui hat square, with respect to beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat. So, in order to minimize the sum of squared residuals, we have to partially differentiate sigma ui hat square with respect to beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat. Then that must be equated to 0. So first step is to partially differentiate sigma ui hat square with respect to beta 1 hat and equate it to 0. Then partially differentiate sigma ui hat square with respect to beta 2 hat and equate it to 0. So we are minimizing. So the first step is this, minimizing the sum of squared residuals. For minimizing the sum of squared residuals, we differentiate partially with respect to beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat and equate it to 0. So here we have to minimize this sigma ui hat square, which is equal to sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi, the whole square. So in the first step, we are partially differentiating sigma ui hat square with respect to beta 1 hat. So we get that is equal to 2 into sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi into minus 1. So we have to equate that to 0. So we know that 2 into sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi into minus 1. So we know that 2 into minus 1 is equal to minus 2. So we are taking that outside the summation, minus 2 into sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi. So when we differentiate sigma ui hat square partially with respect to beta 2 hat, we get 2 into sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi into minus xi. So that there we have minus xi is equal to minus 1 into xi. So minus 1 into 2, that is minus 2. So this is equal to minus 2 into, we are taking minus 2 outside the summation, minus 2 into sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi into xi. So we are equating that to 0. So we get minus 2 into sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi is equal to 0. That is the first equation. And again minus 2 into sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi into xi is equal to 0. So minus 2 into this is equal to 0. We know that minus 2 cannot be 0. Minus 2 is not equal to 0. Then minus 2 is not equal to 0. That means sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi is equal to 0. In the second equation also minus 2 is not equal to 0. So sigma yi minus beta 1 hat minus beta 2 hat xi into xi is equal to 0. So minus 2 is not equal to 0. Similarly, when we expand that equation, we get sigma beta 1 hat. Beta 1 hat is a constant. So instead of writing sigma beta 1 hat, we can write n beta 1 hat because n is a sample size. So we are multiplying with the sample size n. So we will not write sigma beta 1 hat because beta 1 hat is a constant. So we are multiplying with n beta 1 hat. Similarly, we have terms like sigma beta 2 hat xi. So beta 2 hat is a constant. We are taking that outside the summation. So that can be written as beta 2 hat into sigma xi. Similarly, sigma beta 1 hat xi can be written as beta 1 hat into sigma xi. Sigma beta 2 hat into xi square can be written as beta 2 hat again, we are taking the constant outside the summation, beta 2 hat into sigma xi square. So the two equations can be written like this. Sigma yi minus, instead of writing sigma beta 1 hat, we write n beta 1 hat minus, instead of writing sigma beta 2 hat xi, we write beta 2 hat into sigma xi is equal to 0. In the next equation, we have sigma yi xi minus beta 1 hat is taken outside, beta 1 hat into sigma xi minus beta 2 hat into sigma xi square is equal to 0. So by rearranging these equations, we get two normal equations. So when we apply the principle of least squares into the two variable regression model, which satisfies all the assumptions of the classical linear regression model, we get two normal equations. The first normal equation is sigma yi is equal to n beta 1 hat plus beta 2 hat sigma xi, and second normal equation is this, sigma yi xi is equal to beta 1 hat into sigma xi plus beta 2 hat into sigma xi square. These are the two normal equations. We have two equations and we have two unknowns, beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat also. So we have to solve these equations to obtain the unknowns. To calculate the OLS estimates, we have to solve this equation. So by solving these two normal equations by using Cramer's rule, we get values of the least square estimators beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat. In order to obtain beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat, we have to solve these two normal equations, and for solving those normal equations, we use Cramer's rule. So when we apply Cramer's rule, we get the value of beta 2 hat. Initially, we are calculating the value of beta 2 hat, because once we calculate the value of beta 2 hat, it is very easy to calculate the value of beta 1 hat. So we have applied the principle of Cramer's rule to the two normal equations, and we get like this, beta 2 hat is equal to, here we are applying Cramer's rule. So beta 2, in the next step, when we expand that, we get beta 2 hat is equal to n sigma yi xi minus sigma xi into sigma yi divided by n beta 1 n sigma xi square minus sigma xi the whole square, and we can see that this can be written like this. Here when we expand this, we get like this, beta 2 hat is equal to sigma capital Xi minus x bar into yi capital Yi minus y bar the whole divided by sigma capital Xi minus x bar the whole square, where Xi is the observation of the independent variable x and yi is the y observation, and x bar is the mean value of x observations and y bar is the mean value of y observations. So see, in the case of xi minus x bar, we can write like this. Small xi is, here we assume that small xi is equal to xi minus x bar, because lowercase letter, small letter xi is used to denote the deviation between capital Xi and x bar. Similarly, we use lowercase letter y, small yi, to represent the deviation of y observation from the mean value. So, in the numerator, we have sigma small xi small yi divided by, here also in the denominator also we are, instead of writing xi minus x bar, we are using small. So we obtained the equation for finding out beta 2 hat. So beta 2 hat is equal to sigma xi yi divided by sigma xi square, where small xi is equal to capital Xi minus x bar and small yi is equal to capital Yi minus y hat. So this is the equation used to calculate the value of beta 2 hat. So, from the first normal equation, we know that n beta 1 hat is equal to, we are simply rearranging the first normal equation, we get n beta 1 hat is equal to sigma yi minus beta 2 hat sigma xi. So beta 1 hat is equal to, dividing throughout by n, beta 1 hat is equal to sigma yi divided by n minus beta 2 hat into sigma xi divided by n. So beta 1 hat is equal to, so what is sigma yi by n? That is y bar minus beta 2 hat x bar. Sigma xi by n is equal to x bar. So when we know the equation to calculate beta 2 hat, and from this we can find out, once we get the value of beta 2 hat, we can easily obtain value of beta 1 hat, because beta 1 hat is equal to y bar minus beta 2 hat x bar, where y bar is the mean value of y and x bar is the mean value of x. So when we calculate the value of beta 2 hat, we can substitute the value of beta 2 hat as well as the mean values of y and x, and we can easily calculate the value of beta 1 hat. So here beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat are known as the least square estimators. Beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat are the OLS estimators of the true population parameter beta 1 and beta 2. So these are the OLS estimators of the population parameter beta 1 and beta 2. Beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat are the least square estimators. So this is the procedure of applying ordinary least square method. We have applied the principle of least squares and obtained equations for finding out the ordinary least square estimators beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat.